Imagine this. A group of police officers, convinced they're delivering justice, set a luxury car ablaze in the middle of a busy city. The flames roar, the crowd watches in stunned silence, and the officers stand proud of their bold statement. But then a man steps forward, a man they never expected. Calm, composed, and with an unmistakable air of authority, he utters a few words that freeze them in their tracks. It began as a confrontation over a vehicle parked in the wrong place, or so it seemed. A group of police officers, certain they were making a stand against illegal activities, took matters into their own hands. A car was set ablaze, its flames licking the night sky as bystanders watched in stunned silence. But as the fire consumed the vehicle, one man stepped forward, calm, silent, observing. When he finally spoke, his voice carried authority that demanded attention. This wasn't an ordinary man. This was General Adekunle, a high-ranking figure in the military. The officers froze, their actions replaying in their minds. The flames of the burning car now mirrored the heat of their realization. They had just crossed a line they couldn't step back from. What led to such a miscalculation? And how would the man standing before them, a figure of unquestionable power, respond to this act of defiance? Stay with us as we unravel the events of that night and the repercussions that followed. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to History Vault, your destination for uncovering the most gripping and untold stories from around the world. The setting was Abuja, Nigeria's capital, a city bustling with activity, where power dynamics often collided in unexpected ways. It was the mid-2000s, a period when relations between law enforcement and the military occasionally boiled over, fueled by miscommunication and unchecked authority. On this particular day, a group of police officers was stationed near a busy intersection, conducting what they believed was a necessary operation to clamp down on local disturbances. They had been on edge for weeks, tasked with maintaining order in an area that had seen a rise in criminal activities. For them, every parked vehicle, every unfamiliar face was a potential threat. Among these officers was Inspector Jide, a man known for his no-nonsense approach. His team had grown frustrated with what they perceived as blatant disregard for their authority. Then came the car, a sleek black Mercedes parked conspicuously by the roadside. Its tinted windows gave no clue as to what or who might be inside. To the officers, it was a symbol of arrogance, perhaps even criminality. They assumed it belonged to someone flaunting influence, someone who thought themselves above the law. As they approached the vehicle, their initial shouts for the owner to appear went unanswered. Minutes turned into impatience, and impatience turned into action. What the officers didn't know was that this wasn't an ordinary car. It was the personal vehicle of General Adekunle, one of the country's most respected military figures. Known for his calm demeanor and unyielding authority, the general was nearby, completely unaware that his car had become the focus of misplaced aggression. Inspector Jide gave the order, and with a match struck, flames erupted from the car. The onlookers gasped, but no one dared to intervene. The officers stood back, watching the fire climb higher, believing they were sending a message. It was then that a figure emerged from the crowd. Dressed simply, yet exuding authority, General Adekunle stepped forward. He didn't shout, he didn't rush. He simply walked closer, his eyes fixed on the burning car, and then on the men who had set it alight. The officers' confident postures began to waver as they recognized the man standing before them. There was no mistaking him. His name carried weight across the nation. The fire behind them paled in comparison to the fear now rising among them. "Who is in charge here?" the general asked, his tone measured but unmistakably commanding. Silence fell. The officers glanced at one another, their earlier bravado crumbling under the intensity of his gaze. Inspector Jide hesitated, then stepped forward. The general's eyes locked onto his, unblinking. "Do you know what you've done?" General Adekunle's voice was calm, yet it cut through the silence like a blade. The officers realized in that moment that they had not only made a grave mistake, they had ignited a conflict far beyond their understanding. The consequences of their actions were now unavoidable, and the next steps would determine their fate. Stay tuned as we uncover the fallout from this fateful encounter, revealing how a single decision spiraled into a confrontation that shook the ranks of authority. The air was heavy with tension. The flames that had engulfed the car were now dying down, but the confrontation was just beginning. General Adekunle stood tall, his imposing presence unmistakable. The officers, previously so confident in their actions, now appeared small and uncertain, their bravado stripped away. "Who authorized this?" the general asked again, his voice calm but carrying the weight of an unspoken threat. His gaze moved from one officer to the next, each man too afraid to speak. Finally, Inspector Jide, the one who had lit the match, stepped forward. "Sir, it was a mistake," Jide stammered. His words were barely audible, swallowed by the growing crowd that had gathered to witness the fallout. But a mistake was not enough to undo what had been done. General Adekunle's expression did not change. "A mistake," he repeated. "You burned my car, a car with diplomatic markings, and you call it a mistake?" The silence that followed was deafening. The general turned to his aide, who had arrived moments earlier. A single nod was all it took. Within minutes, military vehicles pulled up, their engines rumbling like an approaching storm. Soldiers emerged, their disciplined movements a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded. The officers were instructed to stand down. Some hesitated, others complied immediately, understanding that resistance would only worsen their situation. The general's calm demeanor belied the storm brewing beneath. "This will not end here," he said firmly. "Every action has consequences, and you will face yours." In the days that followed, the incident became the talk of the town, spreading quickly across news outlets and social circles. The police department, under immense scrutiny, launched an internal investigation. Statements were taken and evidence reviewed, but no justification could erase the gravity of what had happened. The officers involved were suspended pending further inquiry. Inspector Jide, once a man of authority, found himself facing the full weight of the law. Charges of misconduct and destruction of property loomed over him, threatening to end his career. For General Adekunle, the incident was not just personal, it was a matter of principle. He demanded that measures be put in place to prevent such occurrences in the future. His influence ensured that high-level discussions took place between military and police leadership, fostering an agreement to improve communication and mutual respect between the two forces. The burned car, a symbol of arrogance and poor judgment, became a lesson in humility. For the public, it was a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked authority and the need for accountability in positions of power. This incident, though resolved, left an indelible mark on all involved. It serves as a reminder that power must be wielded responsibly, and that even those tasked with upholding the law are not above making grave mistakes. What are your thoughts on this story? Could this incident have been avoided? Or was it an inevitable clash of authority? Share your views in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping tales from History Vault. Let's learn from the past to build a better future.